Good evening. If everyone would please stand, will council come to order. Be led in prayer by Alderwoman Tracy Berto.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all of our decisions are for the common good, and for your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all of our deliberations. Give us the strength and the wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all of our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of your community. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Alderman Singh, please pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you could please remain standing for a brief moment. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for Raymond Stewart, who recently passed away, husband of Jan Stewart, our former senior citizen director. I'd also like to acknowledge and announce that on March 20th, 2 weeks from this evening at 6 o'clock, we'll be rededicating Rose City Senior Center, the Jan Stewart Rose City Senior Center, and there is a plaque to be unveiled inside the foyer as well. I'd like to invite members of the public who are here, and I also have some housekeeping. Apparently Comcast is out at the moment, but Xfinity, we believe, is working, so if anyone is viewing this by live streaming, they're able to see this meeting, but at the moment, if they're on Comcast, they're not. And I apologize for that, but I wanted to let people know that it is happening. So if we could have a moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Adoption of minutes, January 6th and 21st of 2023.
Thank you. At this time, I'd ask for a motion, please, to move that forward. Alderwoman Gould, second by Alderman Singh. Is there discussion, corrections, deletions, or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderwoman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Thank you. The motion is adopted 6-0.
The order presentation by Ron Nosek of Clifton Larson Allen LLP. Sorry.
Good evening. I'm Ron Nosek from Clifton Larson Allen. I'm the engagement principal or partner and have been for a few years now. So for most of you, I think it's good to see you again, and some of you, it might be the first time. I did bring a slide deck. We've got it up here on the screen. I'm going to move very quickly through it. I won't bore you by reading my commentary relative to what is in the slide deck, other than just bring a couple things to your attention that I think are different and or important. Real quickly, and most importantly, we'll go through audit scope and reporting results. Again, there's some financial highlights in there that I'll really move quickly through. If you got any questions, I'll be more than happy to take them. But these are at a very high level, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to pour a lot of time into them and take up your agenda time for other things. Then finally, I'll just point out to you some required communications that have already come to you in the form of a letter. I think it might be the top letter that I think I see on most of your desks. I'll just explain what those are all about, and then take any questions that you may have. So relative to audit scope, we actually performed this audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, generally accepted governmental auditing standards, and the Uniform Guidance Act, which was the former Federal Single Audit Act, and also the State of Connecticut State Single Audit Act. Our primary audit opinion is under generally accepted auditing standards, so we're expressing an opinion on the financial statements as to the fairness of their representation of the financial position and results of operation. Under the governmental auditing standards reporting, we're reporting to you relative to your internal control system over financial reporting, and then also on any compliance matters that are applicable to the city that a violation of that compliance requirement would be deemed material to the financial statements by us. So in our opinion, if there were a non-compliance matter, it would be material. Under uniform guidance and under State Single Audit Act, it's somewhat similar to governmental accounting standards, other than the fact that the internal control system and the compliance reporting is relative to the major federal or major state programs that we report on, and that's it. It doesn't relate to the financial statements as a whole or anything of that nature. So if you want to jump, Josh, a couple of slides actually there. So these are the reporting results. So we've issued an unmodified or clean audit opinion on the financial statements as of June 30, 2022. In summary, it basically says that in our opinion, the financial statements fairly represent the financial position and results of operations of the city for the fiscal year that ended. Under governmental auditing standards, relative to internal control over financial reporting, we did not note any matters that we considered to be material weaknesses or significant deficiencies for that matter. In the level of reporting, if you will, a material weakness is deemed to be the highest level of internal control matter that would be reported. Significant deficiency falls below that. Management recommendations would fall below that, and relative to what we're required to report on, which would be the material weaknesses, there were none that were noted. Relative to compliance under governmental auditing standards, the results of our test disclose no instances of non-compliance. So that's a clean report as well. And then under uniform guidance, on the next slide, Josh, I'm giving you the federal programs that were tested. So relative to all those programs that are listed, we test the internal controls as they relate to compliance, and we also test the compliance and actually opine on the compliance or issue an opinion on the compliance relative to all of those programs. So under internal control, again, there were no matters that reached the level of significant deficiency or material weakness. So from an internal control perspective, there was nothing that needed to be reported. And from a compliance perspective, there were no instances of non-compliance that were noted. And the next slide is similar, but to the state single audit. A few more programs because the reporting threshold of what is deemed a major program under the state single audit is a little bit lower than federal single audit. So there were a few more programs that were tested, but again, we test the internal controls and the compliance over those programs, and again, clean throughout. There were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies relative to the internal controls over those programs, and there were no matters of non-compliance that we detected during the performance of our testing over those programs. The next, that's the federal and state single audit relative to internal controls. So I kind of covered them all at once. Nobody can see that, I guess. So I guess I got to figure out a better font to get on there. But you can read these at a later date. What I was trying to draw your attention to was the highlighted number there, which is your fund balance. Total fund balance in the general fund is $17.4 million as of June 30, 2022. And that represents 12.9% of your budgetary expenditures and transfers out. I think I have said to you in the past, the range that healthy cities and towns are looking for is to be somewhere between 8 and 15%. So you're right there, right in the sweet spot, quite frankly. Overall, fund balance increased $376,000 year over year in the general fund. The next slide is, so that's the statement, the balance sheet relative to governmental funds. This is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. I do highlight the $376,000 that we talked about in the general fund just a second ago. And then what I also am just bringing your attention there is in the bond fund, the issuance of the pension obligation debt, where that shows up is in other financing sources and uses. So that was a significant transaction that took place during the fiscal year, clearly. Jump ahead here, this is the long-term debt activity for the fiscal year. As you can see, right up the top line, your general obligation bonds increased significantly due to the issuance primarily of the pension obligation bonds. You issued in total 145 million during the fiscal year. And then if you go two up and three up, nope, not slides, but from the bottom there, you'll see the net pension liability and the net OPEB liability. The net pension liability decreased pretty substantially, obviously due to the issuance of that debt that was placed in the trust. So you know, that obligation or that liability relative to pension is basically the actuarially determined pension obligation less the assets that are in the trust to cover that long-term liability. The net OPEB obligation decreased slightly for the fiscal year, increased slightly for the fiscal year in your governmental activities. If you want to jump the slide, Josh, this is your business type activities. There wasn't a whole lot going on up at the top of that table relative to bonds and notes that were issued. So what I bring to your attention here is, again, the net pension liability and the net OPEB liability, so 1 and 2 up from that bottom line. Both decreased, again, the pension liability substantially due to the issuance of the debt. And the OPEB liability over in the, relative to business type activities also went down. As memory serves me, the reason one went down and one went up is just the allocation that can change year over year based on head counts in the business type activities compared to the governmental type activities. The next slide is I just bring to your attention, I don't think I've ever had this in the slide deck before, but this is the trust funds for the city pension fund, the volunteer fire pension fund, and then your OPEB trust fund, just highlighting to you the issuance of the debt and the impact that had, because all of it was turned over by the city into the trust. So that had a significant impact on the level of assets in the trust fund that knocked down that pension liability. And you can see what went on with the other trust funds as well. The last couple of slides I'm showing you are, last 3 slides are just, I've had these in the deck before. They're basically the funding levels of the pension plan. If you jump, that's the next slide is the fire plan and then the OPEB plan. So you can see what's going on with the liability. I'm giving you 5 years there to get it on a slide that's somewhat seeable. If you look at, and I think I've got the page numbers up on the top of those slides, those relate to the page numbers in the audited financial statements. So this all falls under required supplementary information. So if you look at those page numbers, you'll see an even longer history of that activity. But I do think that funded percentage is a good thing to track year over year, just to see which direction the plans are going in and how you're doing against the long-term liability. And then finally, just the required communications, and again, the letter is in front of you. The only thing I'd bring to your attention is the whole purpose of these is the AICPA has determined that those topical areas that we're required to report to you on relative to this communication are areas that if there were something significant going on that we were reporting to you, it would be an indication that management is expressing some level of bias to the financial statements. So, or they could be trying to make the financial statements look better than they are. They could be trying to make the financial statements look worse than they are, for whatever reason. Our reasoning relative to the reporting wouldn't be as to the whys. It would simply be to communicate to you that we encountered something that we think you should be aware of. But as you'll see in that letter, there were no matters that rose to our attention that would require communication to you relative to those topical areas. And then the last page is just, that's a little bit more of the communications and just my contact information. Dave Hanson, who was the engagement manager, or director, I should say, his contact information as well. If you have questions after this evening, you can reach out to us directly. Better if you work through the finance office, but certainly if one of you call, we're going to answer the phone and do our very best to answer your questions. So that's all I've got for you this evening. If you have any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to take them at this point.
Thank you for the presentation. Obviously, we're all grateful for the support the voters provided us when we went to the referendum. My summary is that this is actually helping us to minimize the growth in that liability each year. We still have obligations, but it's not escalating, which would cost us significantly more. Can you point out how many towns are in a position that we are? I think West Hartford has fully funded their pension obligations.
Yeah.
Are there many others?
There are not, and in and amongst what I would deem to be your peers, there are even less. There are smaller communities that I know of, some, Town of East Lyme being one of them, that has a fully funded pension. But it's certainly a rarity. And where you are relative to that pension, the funding level that's in that disclosure, I think it's 87% or somewhere in that range. I mean, that's a really strong position to be in. So I think I applauded you as well last year to go through that process. So yeah, certainly you're in better shape now, far better shape.
Thank you. Are there questions of members of council at this time? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Number 2, excuse me, an oral report will be given by David Eccleston, the ratepayer representative for Connecticut Municipal Electric Energy Cooperative, CMAC. Excuse me, sorry.
Thank you. I continue to be very appreciative of the opportunity and the privilege of representing ratepayers of Norwich on the CMAC Board of Directors. It's an interesting place to be right now. There's lots of talk about the industry changing. We read about things all the time. I'm constantly learning. Although the pace of change looks like we're not going to see big differences for years. And even if changes were coming, the focus needs to be on what is electricity going to cost us today, next summer, next winter. It has to be the focus of CMAC of getting the lowest reasonable cost electricity to the members in the near term. I do appreciate that they are looking forward and preparing for the future, but today's performance matters. So if you're not familiar with CMAC, they basically procure electricity on behalf of 6 municipalities that have electric utilities. They buy electricity strategically on the market in advance to try and get the lowest rate possible, but they also generate electricity in some ways behind the meter that provides benefit. For example, if you can avoid a peak and reduce what you're drawing from the grid, it puts you in a different place on the hierarchy of people drawing from the grid, and it lowers your transmission costs. In some cases, they actually generate electricity when things are peaking, when it's cheaper to make electricity for the business or for example, the hospital here. And that lowers the cost of electricity for the hospital, but it also provides some benefits to the members because we make a little money off of that. All in all, I'll just skip to the cost performance, which we're going to talk about. It came in 30% under the benchmark, which is Eversource, and I think it's remarkable given the kind of volatility we had last year. We've been affected by world events, and you can see it in energy prices, and it's just amazing how well CMEC did, in my opinion. My job is I need to be independent, free of conflict. I need to be capable of actually participating on the board, and I have to be able to make the commitment time-wise. My employer has been great. I work for Electric Boat. As long as I meet my commitments to Electric Boat, they're happy for me to do what I need to do for CMEC. The board certainly treats me like an equal. I will qualify my membership on the board the different members have financial interests with CMEC, and they make decisions about what projects they're going to fund and what projects they're not going to fund. Those kinds of things are handled by the member heads and not necessarily by ratepayer representatives on the board. Outside of that, I'm a full member of the board. And my mission, not being in the industry, is to challenge how they make decisions, try to understand how they reach their decisions, make sure they're thinking about things critically, and they're trying to fulfill their commitment to us. Where they talk about, in their mission statement, cost-effective energy solutions, I say lowest reasonable cost. And even though their mission statement says what it says, I believe that they're delivering lowest reasonable cost. Their mission statement says what it says because they offer more than just buying electricity. They've got these projects. They advocate for the little guys with the state government and with the federal regulatory bodies that are out there governing electric power. The constant concern is that legislation will be passed or a decision will be made that's based on the big players in the industry. And even though we've paired with 5 other municipalities and we're 6 municipalities strong, we're still a little guy. So we worry about the legislation being incompatible with our needs. So they maintain relationships with the state, and they're looking for other opportunities to sell electricity at a good rate that in turn can be used to lower our costs. Now, I've been on the board long enough that I've been on every committee now. I'm on my second lap, so to speak. And I'm still learning. A lot of the work is done at the committee level, so it's important to be active on the committees there. But one of the things that CMEC instituted shortly after I was on the board, appointed, is that every committee gets to see every other committee's work. Everything is transparent to all board members, so you can't have a meeting with just your little group over here. I do a lot of reading because I get to see it all, and I come to the whole board meetings well prepared because of that. Now, these meetings do take place during the day, which I think many of you know, but again, my employer is certainly happy with the way I manage my commitments. There were 26 meetings last year for which I would be expected to attend. I made 24, so I think that's pretty good. Oops. Business travel interfered with one of the meetings. I had COVID while I was overseas. It was no fun, but that's history. So let's talk about what really matters, cost performance. So they came in 30% under Eversource of a wholesale rate. But what they also do is they establish a budget starting in August, September, and by November they have a budget for the year which predicts electricity price that we're all going to have to pay over the course of the year. And then we track how well they do relative to that plan. We also track how well they do relative to Eversource. So 30% under Eversource, but they came in 15% over their plan. And that's largely due to world events. Just to give you an example of things that I learned on this. I think many of you know that New England is underserved when it comes to gas pipelines. We could get more natural gas that would ease constraints and would lower overall energy prices while we're using natural gas. So we supplement it by filling a tanker, in Houston, and it comes to Boston with liquid natural gas, and then it gets expanded and added to the network. But that's the same form of natural gas that's exported to Europe, and there's a big demand in Europe. There certainly was this year. And so consequently, Europe sets the price of natural gas in New England. Now, when there's a constraint on natural gas in New England, a lot of the energy providers will switch to use diesel fuel. So a big demand on natural gas in Europe raises the price and reduces the amount of natural gas in New England potentially. And then the cost of diesel fuel goes up. So it's all related. And I think it's important to know that the whole energy industry is very complicated like that, and things are related. And it's in our best interests to decarbonize and go with renewables because that reduces our vulnerability to world events. It's also good for the environment, but I see the strategic importance of it from a national security perspective too. And we're trying to head that way. Budget. budget process changed a lot the first year I was on the board. It's continued to evolve. It's still a very transparent process where all board members get to see every line item in the budget. Every line item is examined. There's no carryover. There's no automatic. And for the third year in a row, non-fuel operating costs, things outside of energy and all that stuff, salaries, benefits, that kind of thing, it's been reduced. Every year it's gotten smaller and smaller. Now, some of that is just plain old staffing, but some of it is just getting rid of things that they don't need. They restructured, they reorganized, they didn't need some people, and they made the tough decisions to let them go. And the result is non-fuel operating budget gets smaller every year. Strategic plan. A lot of effort went into the strategic plan 2 years ago, and they continue to follow the strategic plan. It's a living document. It's something that gets pulsed on a regular basis. And part of that means educating the board, making us as smart as we can to make decisions on things that are coming, that we're anticipating. We've been given an overview of projects that they currently have. We were briefed on the future grid reliability study, which basically said, this is interesting. We're going to try and decarbonize, which is not law anywhere, by the way, so it's notional in a lot of ways. And if we do that and we get close to it, based on what we know about technology and what we might think reasonably would happen, the folks who run the grid are saying, we're going to still need fossil fuel-based dispatchable electricity in 2035 and 2040, and even later years, because it does not seem feasible to have a transmission grid and enough energy suppliers to have a reliable enough electricity source for New England. So it's interesting to learn of these things. Electric vehicle charging stations in Maryland, there's a lot of consumer behavior that's going to drive the demand on the grid. So we've been given all kinds of discussions and presentations on things to make us smarter. So the one tangible outcome is that CMEC added to the portfolio, and they've reached a power purchase agreement to get some hydroelectric. It could amount to as much as 10% of the electricity that's procured on behalf of us, and they got it at a good price. I'll tell you, the prices we were seeing were ranging from, if you got lucky, certain days it'd be $45 per megawatt hour, and some days it would be $300 a megawatt hour. You don't have to know what megawatt hour means. All you need to know is 45 versus 300. It's a huge swing. Very hard to manage that. So CMEC is doing things that a healthy organization should do. They've got employee development that they work on, succession planning, because some of these people who do this work, particularly the folks who make the strategic buying, those are talented people with niche knowledge, and you want to make sure you have a lead and a follower so that we're never, if the lead guy retires, we don't suddenly see a big change in performance from CMEC. So they're thinking about those things and doing things about it. Now, as much as CMEC looks at renewables and decarbonization, the board consistently gives CMEC the same message, which is, as long as renewables increase costs, we want to be very careful about adding those to the portfolio, because our ratepayers are generally, we have a distressed community, and we're always worried about price first. We don't want what some would call boutique electricity. And so CMEC is very attentive to that position. And on that note, I'll move on to legal issues. So I think we all know in public domain, the defendants in the federal trial were found guilty and their appeal was denied. And next month there should be sentencing, and I expect there will be appeal of the sentences. So this is going to go on for a while. In the meantime, we keep conducting business as normal. There were some other brewing legal issues that CMEC seems to have a knack these days under Dave Meisinger of drawing to a close in a constructive manner. There's just There's no debate, there's no threats of going to court. They just sort of solve problems in a way that's mutually beneficial for everybody. And on that note, as a result, despite technical and legal disputes on sub-base fuel cells, that went operational at the end of last year, and that's reducing our cost. The Tesla solar cells and the batteries that don't perform all that well, we seem to be close to a final solution there. They're paying attention, they're making some changes to make those things work better for us. These are all happening without any acrimony, and I think that's the way to do it. CMEC's reputation, in my opinion, should be moving towards an organization that's thoughtful and constructive. When it comes to legislative affairs, again, like I mentioned before, the decarbonization goals for Connecticut are aspirational. They're not law. At the federal level, there's an executive order that commits the federal government to reducing its carbon footprint, but it doesn't make it law for anybody. There are some states and different places that are making it a legal requirement to decarbonize, but we're not there. Yet we all think it's happening, and so we all have to be ready for it. So this is one of the things that CMEC does for us. They stay abreast of all those issues and brief the board so we know where we are and what's coming. And again, we always have a concern that'll be directed at the major energy producers, but and it'll put us at a disadvantage. We'd like to meet state and federal goals, but it's really clear we need a little more maneuvering room than most. But I'll just summarize this at this point. I think CMEC is consistently keeping their commitment to us to get us lowest reasonable cost electric power. They haven't, their culture has not deviated one bit in the time I've been there. It's about transparency and about accountability. I see behavior, cost-conscious and risk-aware behavior, which helps me because if there's a gap in my knowledge, I want to trust them because I see this behavior that helps me believe what they're recommending to me. And I'll just give you a quick example of that. We had a Pierce plant that was a peaking power plant that CMEC could see was providing less and less value over time. And based on the futures market, they could see it was eventually going to be unprofitable. So they said, we got to find a buyer for this who can use it in a way that it makes sense for them. So they did. They succeeded. They found a buyer, and at the end of 2021, it was sold. For one reason or another, there's this heavy-duty truck that CMEC used to maintain the facility that wasn't included in the deal. None of this is at the board level. We don't know any about this stuff. These are way details of managing it. But the employees at CMEC said, there's a strong used vehicle market. We could sell that the oversized truck and use the proceeds to get the truck we need that's the right size and lower overall operating cost. And they brought that to the board. Unsolicited, we don't know these things are happening, but it's just evidence of cost-conscious behavior. And then the board suggested that maybe they should consider an electric vehicle instead. So they went off and they studied that, and it came back to us with a thorough treatment about risk and the need for these vehicles in emergencies when there's no power, and the logistics of having an employee who doesn't own their home have a charging station, and on and on and on. And it showed me the risk-aware behavior that I'm looking for. So I'm seeing the cost-conscious behavior and the risk-aware behavior from employees who are CMEC staff. And it gives me confidence. And couple that with the education I'm getting on what could be coming in the future. I think they're preparing for the future, and we are getting electricity at the lowest reasonable cost. That's my report. If you have questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, David. Very comprehensive. Appreciate your role. Every year, your message is pretty clear and doesn't leave a lot of gray area for us, and it gets better and stronger. Appreciate that very much. Other questions, members? Alderwoman Gould.
All right, so I will reiterate the mayor's compliment. You're representing us extremely well on the CMEC board. Your reports are succinct but thorough, and I'm glad we've selected you. My question is, under your legislative affairs section of your report, you talked about how the state of Connecticut is considering going carbon neutral like 2040. Has CMEC made any attempt to determine what decarbonization might cost? Have they thought about those costs and what it means to the ratepayers?
It's very hard to determine. What they have done is they've talked us through what current prices are for different types of electricity and what the opportunities are to buy it. And one of the problems with coming up with a cost of becoming decarbonized is the lack of industrial scale sources. The way the energy market works is it is source agnostic. You don't know how it's made. You just buy so many megawatt hours, certain time periods. So there's no pricing out there that tells you. You can infer prices through, for example, the hydroelectric deal that they made outside of the markets. And in fact, the legislation at this point, if we had to go push harder and go green, every entity would have to be doing it outside the market, because the market doesn't tell you what the price is going to be. The market is based on supply and demand. So, but we do have estimates for what wind power could cost. And we do have estimates about what solar power could cost, but they're not very reliable at this point.
All right, thank you.
Non-answer, I'm sorry.
No, it's an honest answer. That's fine.
Thank you. Other members at this time? David, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Number 3, communication from Public Works Committee with information on accepting the clock to be installed in Howard Brown Park.
Motion, please, for this to be brought to the floor. Alderman Singh, second Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderwoman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. We're going to take one step back, and
I'm sorry.
the audit report from our auditors, I'd like to ask for a motion that that be accepted as well, please. Alderman Gould, second by Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Thank you. The motion passes 6-0. And again, referring back to David Eccleston's report, a motion, please, that it be accepted formally. Alderwoman Gould, second Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
6-0.
Thank you. The motion passes 6-0.
City Manager's report.
Thank you. This is the city manager's report for March 6th of 2023. Meetings attended were with state representatives and legislators, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, NPU City Coordination Meeting, NCDC Board of Directors Meeting, Fire Chiefs Meeting, and staff regarding this year's budget. The Fire Chiefs and Fleet Maintenance Supervisor met as the Apparatus Ad Hoc Reduction Committee per City Ordinance 1833. Through Friday, March 3rd, Norwich Public Works has responded to 5 winter weather events this winter season. While 4 of these were relatively minor, the last event on February 27th and 28th dropped about 6 inches of snow over most of the city. Public Works utilized all available personnel for this last event, but did not require any extra assistance from outside resources such as NPU. Public Works has used about 450 tons of salt to date, exclusive of the storm expected Friday night. The Community Development Office received 14 applications in addition to their administration budget for the 2023-24 CDBG program year. It's program year 49. Applications totaled $1,412,936.80, with HUD available amounts of $806,276. The office is currently accepting applications for coronavirus-related projects and programs. Community Development is looking to reallocate $200,586.80 in recapture funding back into the community. Proposed programs and projects must intend to prevent, prepare, or respond to COVID-19. Applications are due in person in the office by 4 p.m. on Friday, March 17th, 23. If there are any questions about eligibility or prospective requests, please contact Sydney Phelps, Director of Community Development, at 860-885-2911 or via email sphelps@cityofnorwich.org. Adult and Family Services has partnered again with NPU to host an energy awareness and financial literacy night with Liberty Bank. This event will happen in 2 sessions on April 27th. Contact the Adult and Family Services for more info at 860-823-3782. Human Services Director Kate Mild joined her youth, family, and recreation staff, along with the Mayor Neister, Representative Wilson, and other local community leaders at Norwich schools for Read Across America on March 2nd. Thank you to those who participated in this national literacy event. And finally, congratulations to Valerie Cox on her retirement. Val started her career with the city in December of 1984. Prior to her retirement, she was the most senior employee in the city. She began as the senior clerk typist in the police department and was promoted to other positions within the police department, including secretary, executive secretary, and administrative generalist. And I will say that the city won't be the same without her. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, John. Other questions of the city manager at this time? Seeing none.
Citizen comment on resolutions.
Thank you. At this time, I declare citizen comment on resolutions to be open and would invite anyone wishing to speak to us on the resolutions on our agenda this evening. Please identify yourself at the podium with your name and address. Thank you. Please.
Good evening. My name is Susie Hurlbert, and I am the current president of the Rotary Club of Norwich, and I live in Quaker Hill.
I'm Carrie Shemansky, president of the Norwich Sunrise Rotary Club, and I live here in Norwich at 24 Burgart.
Bill Champagne, live in Preston. I'm on the board of the Noontime Rotary Club.
Gary Young, live in Norwich since 1954, and I have been a Rotarian since 2004, and that's about it.
So to the town council of the city of Norwich and the various committees that have been involved in the approval process for the Rotary Clock, the mayor of Norwich, and the esteemed members of the Norwich community, it is with great respect for the approval process that the Rotary Club of Norwich and Sunrise Rotary Club gives great thanks for the opportunity to commemorate 100 years of service to the community with the placement of a Rotary clock at Howard T. Brown Park and the promise of another century of service to this community. And I believe Carrie wanted to expand a little bit.
I just wanted to add that all the committees were great to work with, and we appreciate all the efforts, but a special mention of thanks to Norwich Public Works Director Patrick McClellan and the Norwich Public Works Committee for all their guidance and help throughout the process. It was a long journey. We learned a lot, and we're most appreciative for that, and that's what helped us get to this level of approval and get the project to the finish line.
And one final comment, if this does meet your approval tonight, we want to let you know that our time frame for the rest of this project, which will involve fundraising from here on out, is expected to be, I would say, within 6 months to 18 months, depending on how quickly that next phase goes. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you very much for the generosity and all the work that Rotarians do for our community. A century of service. Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the council on agenda items this evening under citizen comment?
Good evening. I'm Jan Sawicki, 39 Andrea Lane, Norwich. Just wanted to make a couple of comments in the positive, really. As a former member of the Norwich Public Schools and assistant principal at Greenville School, I'm very, very happy to see Greenville School will come once more into being. And I think that's a real important plus for that neighborhood in particular. They need a lot of positives, and anything that can come of a new school and a center for that neighborhood and that whole community will be a wonderful thing. It kind of breaks my heart as the former principal of Stanton School to see my school go up in smoke, so to speak, and dust. But I know it'll be bigger and better, and I trust you all for making the best decisions that need to be to move Norwich and our school system forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hey, would anyone else like to address the council at this time with the citizen comment? Anyone else under citizen comment? Anyone else under citizen comment at this time on the resolutions on our agenda? Seeing no one else, thank you for your comments. Thank you for your presence this evening. I declare it closed.
New business resolutions. Number 1, relative to conveying property on Buckingham Avenue by deed in lieu of foreclosure.
Thank you. At this time, I entertain a motion to bring this resolution forward. Alderwoman Berto, second by Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
6-0.
The motion passes 6-0. The resolution is adopted.
Number 2, relative to the school construction grant application for the construction of a new elementary school on the grounds of the former Greenville School.
A motion, please, to bring this forward. Alderwoman Gould, second Alderman Singh. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderwoman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. Resolution 2 is adopted.
Number 3, relative to the school construction grant application for the construction of a new elementary school on the grounds of the Moriarty Environmental Science Magnet School.
Thank you. A motion, please, to bring this forward. Alderwoman Gould, second Alderwoman Berto. Is there discussion? President Pro Tem.
I meant to mention this on Resolution 2. It applies to Resolution 3 and 4. Item number 2 states, establish a building committee for the project. The School Building Committee 2020 that is currently in force will serve as the building committee for all of the school projects.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarity. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. Resolution 3 is adopted.
Number 4, relative to the school construction grant application for construction of a new elementary school on the grounds of the John B. Stanton School.
Thank you. A motion, please bring it forward. Alderwoman Gould, second Alderman Singh. Is there discussion? Alderwoman Gould.
So I just want to comment on Mrs. Wicky's, what she had to say. When she came to the podium, I am thrilled that we're going to put a school back in Greenville. Absolutely thrilled. That was my one contribution to the first committee I sat on, was that I pushed for that. And I'm thrilled that we're going to get a school back there. The community needs it. And I am sad that Stanton School, where I attended, will be the building as it exists today, one day will not be there anymore, which saddens me, but we need new schools.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
6-0.
Thank you. Motion passes 6-0. Resolution 4 is adopted.
Number 5, relative to participation in the cost-sharing program with the City of Norwich to construct concrete sidewalks and set a public hearing date for March 20th, 2023.
Thank you. A motion, please bring it. Alderwoman Berto, second Alderman Singh. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
6-0.
Thank you. Motion passes 6-0. Resolution 5 is adopted.
Number 6, relative to appointing a certified public accounting firm to perform regular general audits for fiscal year 2022-23.
Thank you. Motion, please bring it to the floor. Alderwoman Bertos, Alderwoman Gould is the second. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
6-0.
Thank you. Motion passes 6-0. Resolution 6 is adopted. 6-0. Thank you.
Number 7, relative to accept a gift to be installed at the Howard Brown Park from the Norwich Noontime Rotary.
Motion, please. Alderwoman Gould, second Alderman Singh. Is there discussion? Alderwoman Gould.
And I've only been a Rotarian with the Norwich Sunrise Rotary Club since 2017, but I am thrilled to look forward to seeing this clock erected in Howard Brown Park. And it will take some hard work to raise the funds, I know, but I'm sure that what Rotary sets out to do, we get done. So
Thank
I
you.
will be supporting resolution number 7.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just want to add to Alderwoman Gould's comment that Norwich is very lucky to have such active Rotarian community here. And I think it will be very helpful in beautification of the city overall, having such kind of clock there. And I just want to thank you for all your patience through the process. I know it was a long process, but you went through it, and I will be supporting your resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there further discussion? President Pro Tem, please.
Just quickly, thank you all for coming tonight, and I echo the thanks for your patience, because you really made the trip around the bureaucracy of the city of Norwich. I just wanted to also thank you and recognize the fact that the memorandum of understanding and agreement that's attached to this resolution says, among several things, that you give this gift, and you also support the gift being in the hands of the city of Norwich. So many times, we hear criticism because, we accept gifts, or we take property, or we're given property, and then we're eating the cost. The taxpayers are eating the cost, for, well into the future. The fact that you had the forethought to say, this thing's going to need to be cleaned, it's going to need to be maintained, and we want that to be part of our giving, that is greatly appreciated by the members sitting up here, and I'm certain by the public. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
6-0.
Thank you. The motion passes 6-0. Resolution 7 is adopted.
Number 8, relative to appointing a town and city clerk commencing on July 19th, 2023.
Thank you. At this time, I'd ask for a motion, please. Alderwoman Gould, second Alderman Singh. Is there discussion? Alderwoman Gould.
Mrs. Barrett, the city will not be the same without you,
Thank you.
but
It's not gone yet. Slow
I
down.
know. So July 19th, when the books change hands, the city won't be the same without you. And we'll welcome Roseanne with open arms and congratulate you on a well-deserved retirement.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to work with you.
My pleasure.
President Pro Tem, please.
And to that, I would just like to add, and we had this conversation in agenda setting, but it's worthy of this chamber, that it is a credit to you as a clerk that you have prepared your staff to succeed you so seamlessly. And myself personally, but I know that we as a body cannot thank you enough for that, because the work that happens in your office is too important to have somebody start from scratch and have not had your mentoring over the last, I won't say the number of years, but thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Appreciate it. Very humbling.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman Singh.
Yeah, I'll say that you'll be missed in this whole city, because even as a citizen, I have seen numerous times how you have helped, not just me, many other people who come to your office, especially during the COVID time. You made like so many trips up and down just to get one thing done, and I also want to congratulate Roseanne for this new position, and I'm sure she will be doing a very great job. She have learned a lot over this period of time, so thank you, and good luck for your future endeavors in advance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? I would like to thank our city clerk tonight for bringing this matter to our attention in a timely manner. This permits us to ensure, and I'm speaking now of the budget process, that we maintain the level of employment in the city clerk's office, because it is so important. We must not lose sight of that. But I also want to thank you for your mentoring of Roseanne and all your employees. You have always been such a leader. You don't hire many people as a mayor, but I can tell you that I so enjoyed being part of the team that hired you when you began here in Norwich. We, at that time, were getting the person who was not only a town clerk of Lisbon, but she was also, I think, the head of the City Clerks Association and town clerks across the state. And has always been a mentor, not just to the people and the staff in her office, but to people across this state. She is a leader, and she is looked to in that manner. And I know that Roseanne, when she steps into this role, will be looked upon as the same. That is due to your grace, your effort, your work. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I really appreciate working with you all. And I will miss it.
Thank you. If there is not further comment at this time, roll call, please.
Alderwoman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
6-0.
Resolution 8 is adopted on a 6-0 vote. Thank you all.
And thank you for your nice comments. I really appreciate them.
You're well-deserved. Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Alderman Singh.
Alderwoman Berto?
Yes.
Alderman Singh?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Neuendorf?
Yes.
President Pro Tem DeLucia?
Yes?
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. We are adjourned. Thank you all.